Have you ever wanted to make one of those Instagram reels where you're turning around your artwork like this to reveal to all? Well, we are going to do that today. What is up? I am your buddy Matt, and this is the fourth and final deep dive video into how I created this artwork commemorating my 30th anniversary of illustrating official Star Wars artwork. And this piece is called Vader's World, and I just had so much fun creating it for this upcoming show that is going to have dozens and dozens of my artwork on display. And over the years, there's a lot of different styles that I've used, but the one that I think people resonate with the most is that textured movie poster style that just kind of makes everything look larger than life. And this is it. This is the final video. We've kind of gone through with drawing it out, adding the washes, adding opaque paint on top of that, which kind of gives the illusion of 3D. The final step that we are doing, here I am adding in I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is me adding in the opaques, which kind of helps for things like lights and highlights. And the final step today is color pencils. Whoosh, snickety snicked. And here's my color pencils, kind of getting low in inventory. That's Watto, who hangs out and guards the color pencils. Yow! So here we go. Color pencils are really cool because you can literally draw right on top of your painting. And the thing that's cool about color pencil is there's two different things that we're doing. One, we can add details and things that we couldn't achieve with the brush. You have a lot more control. But the other thing that you can do is you can add flair. And what we've been doing most of the time, although we were doing a lot of the zip and the splashes, but most everything else that we've been doing, we've just been rendering, and we've been trying to make everything look like a particular actor or actress and have that likeness. Or we've been trying to illustrate things realistically, maybe somewhat photographically. So now with color pencils, we can do that. We can continue to render things out. We can soften edges. We can define edges. We can make things more colorful. There's a lot of things we can do rendering-wise. But the other thing that we can do is we can add pizzazz and do some stylization things that can really make this piece sing. So what I'm doing here is I'm outlining, and right before doing this, I actually did a black color pencil outline, and now I'm outlining it again with blue just to make that Boba Fett stand out just a little bit more. Now, this is kind of a look that you see on a lot of movie posters. Drew Struzan uses this technique a lot. I've done this quite a bit in my art. However, there are things that it'll do good, and there's things that'll do maybe not as good. When you do the heavy outlining, one of the things that's cool that does make it good is it's not just photographic anymore, and it kind of reminds the viewer that this is an illustration, and that it kind of brings some of the drawing back into it. And so it adds that artistic flair to where it's not just a photograph, because if all you're doing is just rendering it so that people could conceivably mistake it for a photograph, well, what's the point of it even being art then? So it's just kind of this really cool illustrative technique that just makes everything look a little bit more graphic. Why it's not as good at times is because it does that. So there have been times I have done paintings in my career where there'll be a heavy outline, but before I do that outline, I'll kind of feel like, wow, this looks so painterly, this looks great. And then as soon as I add the outline, it starts to make it look more like a comic book or more cartoony. And sometimes that's a really good thing and it makes it exciting, sometimes not as much. What you just saw me do is add, now what I'm doing is adding kind of, again, a little bit of an outline to the Tidarium shuttle here. But what I was doing was adding a little bit of a glow to the lights on the shuttle. And just adding a little bit of yellow, just doing those little spirals. It's kind of a glow, and I didn't really try to fade it too much. I literally just drew spirals because at the end of the day, sharpen the pencil there. At the end of the day, it's an illustration. It's bringing it back full circle to the drawing. One thing that you saw me do after I sharpened my pencil there, you saw me tap the top of the pencil sharpener. There's a reason why I do it, and it's not, I don't know, I'm the only person that I know that does this, but the reason why I tap it is because when you sharpen your pencil, you get like these tiny little shavings that are kind of all over the pencil, and if you immediately go and start drawing, those shavings just kind of get all over your illustration. And it's not a big deal, you can just go and blow them off, but I just give the pencil sharpener a little tap, and then the shavings just kind of go, instead of going all over your illustration, they kind of go all over the pencil sharpener. What I need to do, I need to get a garbage pail or a waste paper basket right next to my desk. I actually have one in the desk behind me, but not that desk. And then I could just tap that and have the pencil shavings go in there. Okay, so here what I'm doing, I'm using a white color pencil. I had some good washes adding some details into the Tidarium shuttle, but some of them just weren't standing out enough, and some of these areas I didn't really want to use opaque white because it might be too bright, and it might be hard to get a brush to get those really specific details. So here with a color pencil, I just have a lot more control for those razor sharp details, but also, with color pencils, you can soften things as well as kind of defining hard edges, but also soften up the soft edges as well. The color pencils are cool because they're waxy, so you can see through them. They're not completely opaque, and so some of the color underneath does show through. And you can see here where this is just helping define the edges of the cockpit of the shuttle. And with each line that I make, it just kind of makes it a little bit more 3D, a little bit more three-dimensional. And it just kind of helps it look like plates onto this vehicle. And not only is the waxy wax of the color pencil, it's slightly transparent, but also because there's a texture there, it's not going into the deepest grooves. So when you really look at this closely, there is a really cool texture happening. And again, that's one of the neat things with doing this technique, is because I kind of designed the original gesso texture that I put down to be kind of this radial texture moving away from the sun, right on the other side of Vader's helmet. You can see here those radial textures are continuing to kind of fan out over on that side. And let's see if I do the tap here. Do I do it? Yep, there we go. I do it without even thinking about it. That's just my thing, I guess. But you can see the textures coming through. And you can see the textures coming through here. So remember in the previous video when I was putting some of that opaque paint onto Emperor Palpatine's face, it's really cool. It kind of gives that pasty look, and it really helps the highlights in the area of his face that has light on it. But then there's the part of his face that's in shadow. You still can see there's like some reflected light in there, which is actually what I'm enhancing now. But again, color pencils are an opportunity to fuse in a little bit more color. And so, before there was just kind of this purple, like just the darker purple and the lighter purple in the shadow. And now with this pink color pencil, I'm able to kind of go in and add in just a little bit of reflected light, and it really helps just kind of add in that little bit of reflected light, a little bit more color into Palpatine's face. The other cool thing about it is this illustration, again, it's got that radial sunburst, a little bit more on the other side, and it kind of rolls from yellow to orange to hot pink, kind of where Luke Skywalker's head is a little bit off to the right there. And then by the time we get to Palpatine, it kind of rolls into purple. It's kind of going through the color wheel. And then you've got blue on the other side of his hood. So most of Palpatine's face is purple, but by adding in just a little bit more of that pink, it's just kind of helping make more of a transition of those colors. It's not a perfect transition. I don't want it to be a perfect transition, but that pink is just kind of helping bring some of that back into it. And you can see I used a little darker purple. That's a lilac, which is kind of a medium light purple. But the darker purple kind of helped chisel out a little bit more on the nose, a little bit more shadow under the eyes, and you can kind of nip and tuck and push and pull, adding in those details. So now we're working on Boba Fett. He's got that green armor, and I don't want the armor to be too green because it's kind of a green army gray, but there are areas that I want to infuse a little bit more color than areas that I want to be a little bit less. And the color pencils are great. I have control to really put the color where I want it and just don't put the color where I don't want it. There's more of like a laser green just to give a little bit of a pop. I don't want to make Boba Fett too cartoony and get too crazy with like Ninja Turtle green, but I'm using some lighter greens here, like this lime green, to kind of help some of the highlights and maybe some of the areas that maybe got a little grayed out. Bring some of that back in. I'm looking at the reference off to the side, of course, and also using dark green, which I had a second ago. Now I've got the light green again, but I can use a darker green pencil to add in any shadow where maybe it just wasn't dark enough. That said, big thing to keep in mind with color pencils. So this is the last step, and color pencils can save a lot. They really can help you quite a bit. But a crutch that I've seen with some of my students and some amateurs that start getting into this, everyone falls in love with color pencil because it's clean and it's real easy to do. But the problem is if you rely, the more that you kind of save for color pencil and say like, oh, I'm going to fix it later with color pencil. Let's see, do I give it the tap? There we go. Little love tap right there. The more that we do with color pencil, the more chalky it can look, and it'll have kind of this crayon effect, and we don't want that. So you really need to, when kind of going through this mixed media process, you need to do as much as you can each step of the way. Wait until the end for color pencil. And I try to tell my students, pretend that for each of these steps that you don't have the next step. So when you do your drawing, do the best drawing that you can do because it's going to show underneath, right? Then when you add the washes, obviously it's not going to be the last stage, but pretend it is. Really, I always say get rid of the white. So do as much as you can with the wash stage. Then with the opaques, do the best job that you can. And then, you kind of know in the back of your head, oh, I still get to do color pencil. But don't rely on that. Do the best job that you can with the opaques. And then finally, color pencil will fix any last-ditch things that you need to incorporate. but don't rely too much. Otherwise, you're going to have a really chalky looking illustration, and we don't want that. Oh, would you look at that? Being clever, sharing the word on Aladdin 3477. This is the official collector's edition, and you can pick these up. I'll leave a link down below on where you can get this book. It's chock full of images from the upcoming movie, and it shows how I made it. There is artwork in there. It shows a look at some of the storyboards. Oh, look at that. There's a Fidgy designer toy. Also, I'll leave a link to the pre-sale store where you can get some of the cool Fidgy toys. But the movies are coming out soon. I cannot wait. If you're a fan of Star Wars and Indiana Jones, adventure and action, you are going to dig these films. So what I'm doing here with the color pencils, I'm actually helping some of the stars with their glow. Infusing just a little bit more color here and there. And with that, we're almost done. Rah! Of course, the last thing is adding in your John or Joan Hancock. My signature here is shaking the camera, unbeknownst to me as I do this. Here I'm adding in the year. This is a new piece. It's a 2024. Sometimes I'll put .com, or sometimes I won't put anything, just depends. Here we go with the Instagram reel. Although usually artists are doing this with an actual canvas, I have to say it looks much better with a canvas than a somewhat flimsy, this probably isn't even a heavyweight board, it's probably a middleweight illustration board. So it doesn't have quite the same effect when you're flipping it around. Here it is. Here's the juice. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and kind of doing a deep dive into this technique. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, oh my gosh, give me a like. You should be subscribed if you're not already. And of course, the notification bell. Leave me some comments on what you want to see for future videos. If you enjoyed these videos, you should share them with your friends. And there are a bunch of You Can Draw Star Wars episodes. If you haven't seen them all, check those out. Matt's class, I have a lot of really good videos showing all kinds of different techniques. It's not always Star Wars specific, but you can apply these techniques to anything. Sketchbook challenges are the coolest things to help fill up your sketchbook. Some really great challenges that are really going to get the creative wheels turning. I also teach in the creative imaging and illustration specialty in the MACA Media and Communication Arts Department at Macomb College. Hollywood is dead, and as I mentioned before, Aladdin 3477. It's my upcoming trilogy of live action movies. The first film is coming out this year. I am so excited about it, and I know you're going to dig it. Again, if you love Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings, it is going to be an epic trilogy, and it is coming at you soon. All right, be well. I will be back next week with a new video. So, rock and roll. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you then.